architectural review boards, planning boards, boards of adjustment online, through Zoom. That's been pretty nice. I've been doing a lot of, video phone calls with my staff and my folks out in, St. Louis and Florida and, across the country.
Yeah.
I think it's just, what, it's those people you have difficult work. I've been having difficulty working with. It unfortunately, I think, gives them an excuse to hide. That's my only problem.
Yeah.
The ones who don't want to communicate. Here's your excuse. They're, oh, sorry, I'm working from home. I've got this going on. I got that going on. Yeah.
We find in a law firm that productivity eventually smokes out and reveals hiders.
Yeah. Well, our productivity is way down.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, because I'm wondering what comes, what's in store. I don't think things will ever be the same, and I personally don't want them to be. But even coming into this in New Jersey, we had just an abundance of empty commercial office space, as you know, right?
Yeah.
And so now those people that were occupying some of that commercial office space have spent the last 4 months at home. And so do we see a further decline in that commercial office space? Or maybe what we see is a trend from the city folks, or the people who least like their situation of having to commute 3 hours each way. And maybe those places like Barclays Bank and JP Morgan and the other big ones start to absorb or take up some of that New Jersey space in more of a small office share kind of thing, so that they don't have to bring their bankers in every day on public transportation into the city, but yet they give them a place away from home. Or maybe they come to Quantum Floats and hang out there.
Well, I was talking with a contractor friend of mine about that, and he was talking, I guess, with some of his clients. A lot of what his clients are looking for are places where they can come in and get their, just assemble their team, maybe once or twice a week, get together, brainstorm, and then head back to the offices. So, maybe it's a 2-hour thing, maybe it's a, whatever it is, half-day thing. They just want that temporary, team meeting time, and then they head off and do their thing. I think a lot of companies, and I'm guessing, a lot of companies are not paying rent, or they're paying very little rent. And I think maybe to your point, they're realizing that, oh yeah, hey, once my folks start getting comfortable working from home, maybe this could work out. If I don't have to pay this rent, maybe there's an alternative where I could do some temporary space like we just talked about. I don't know. I think companies are definitely weighing their options.
Well, rent is one of the biggest line items. It's either going to be rent or employee expenses. Those are generally your two big fixed costs.
Yeah.
Now we're navigating into some place that we haven't been before. We've been building a model for agreement.
Right.
And in the boardrooms or living rooms or float centers, architectural firms, restaurants, people are considering, if not, well, navigating what's next.
Yeah.
The model that we're building is a navigational tool, right? Like, where do you go? Where do you go with your staff? Well, where's the agreement? Where can you find it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Right? Yeah, no, I think about that, because we've got 2,000 business clients that we hear from periodically, and everybody is having conversations like this. I see that Ralph's on, and I know that the restaurant business is repositioning. The law business is too. It's amazing. Every single day I read, I get these emails that such and such firm has decided to merge with another, or close its office, or is going virtual, or is downsizing its staff because they don't need, everybody's readjusting. So we're in a readjustment period.
I think a vaccine's going to come out, Ken. I think that it's going to be close. We got a couple more months of pain, and I bet you a mysterious vaccine pops up November, and it's all going to go away.
How many viruses have a vaccine?
I don't know, but they want to find one for this one.
And there's a lot of talk out there. Yep, about some of the front runners. Yesterday's papers, today's papers, about that. But
I hope you're right, Ralph.
Yeah,
I really do.
Me too.
Yep.
For the world's sake.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too. But I don't think things will ever be the same, and I'm not sure that that everybody's going to want it to be the same, whatever that means. There's new winners and losers are being picked here now. Because, in some sense, get a vaccine, but there's no, we've had the experience. How do you like that? Them apples now. All you people that have grown up that are my age or younger that have, now had the experience of being kicked out, just booted out of your, comfort zone now into an experience like one that you've never had. I submit to you the last 34 days that you've been spending here time on this podcast has been exactly that. Like, what do you do now? And honestly, I don't, I could help. I'm glad to, that's what I do, and that, I know that you guys do that too. Talk to people, find ways to navigate to a place where things work better. But we're talking about agreement, right? That's the name of the game here. You've heard me talk about various times in this 30 some odd day series, and even in the last 30 some odd day series that we did before this one, about some legal matters that I'm handling that have seemed to sometimes seem to drag on indefinitely because of, an inability to find the place to agree. Really costly. Think about it, Ralph, or, if you were going to buy a new restaurant, or Pat, if you were going to, merge with another firm, or Greg, if, Diamond Technologies was going to be bought or wants to buy something, or with your own relationships, how much time gets spent sometimes on, let's say putting your energy into things that aren't to your liking when you get right down to it. I'm finally with one of my deals getting ready to close it. It's been dragging on this particular deal for years and years. This client's been trying to sell his business. And we're maybe a day away from an agreement on that. And I suppose I could say that that's what we're talking about here and what we've been talking about, and that would be true. But it would be true that the kinds of legal things that I do and the kinds of agreements that Pat you do with your customers and clients, and Greg with your upstream and downstream vendors and customers, and Pam with your customers, and Ralph with your customers, and is all about agreement. That would be true, but I think if I left it there, I think I would not maybe, I don't know that I'd say undersell, but maybe not emphasize enough in fairness about what we're really talking about here. Because the kind of legal agreements that I've spent my career working on, I've learned a thing or two or three about agreements that I've never even considered before. I mean, we're talking about the inner functionings, the nuts and bolts, the wheels that turn, that actually go into the agreements. That's a lot different than me bringing a piece of paper over to a client to have them sign and maybe change in a few words. I'm talking about what's really behind the curtain there, like that Wizard of Oz saying, behind the curtain, they say, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. As the curtain parts open, and Dorothy and the other characters are looking at the guy that's talking on the microphone. That's what I'm talking about here. I mean, we've been pulling back that curtain. And all those functions that we've been talking about come into play here. All of them work together. We've presented them to you in a linear, one right after the other fashion, but you may be beginning to see that they work in a way that, that the playing field depicts, and that's even two-dimensional. This what we have up now, what Paul played with and showed us is that he's given us a way to see that it's more geometrical. So I got a question here, right? How do you, if I wanted to figure, if I wanted to take a look, or if I wanted to figure out what agreements I hold or a client holds or anybody that's in my life holds, what would I do? How would I go about that? What do you think, Pat or Ralph or Pam? Or
I think first you got to pay attention to how somebody responds to you when they start doing that thing. If they have that thing they do. I think that's where your first inclination is like, why are you doing this thing? And then if you could pick up on that thing, it so far has fell into a category of maybe they're not B1, they're out of harmony. Once they start hearing a little bit of that, then people want to know more. Like, hey, you're right. Maybe I am out of harmony. How do I get into harmony? But I pick up on it when people start doing that thing. Mo becomes aloof. The guy at Restaurant Depot becomes a douche. But they all do people do their thing. And if you can recognize it, I think you could talk to them about it.
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. That is true. How about this? How about you just look around at the reality that they live in, or that you live in with them? Think about that. Just like,
Describe that. What does that mean?
Well,
think about the reality you live with.
Yeah, let me take it in a way that Greg, I think, of the bunch may, because he works for a tech company, but maybe some of you, Paul probably is also familiar with reverse engineer. Maybe that's, the point that I'm making is that if you look at the reality, what's going on with someone, with yourself, you have as good, if not the best, fix or indication on what agreements you hold. About that, right? I mean, that to see that, you have to consider that we, you, me, and everyone, we're reality creation machines. This playing field that we've been presenting as a model, I'll reemphasize that none of, this is just a representational model for you to understand what you already do. That's it. A dance that you're already familiar with. But as we've seen, as in some of the diagrams, things are not always lining up. Sometimes they're off kilter. Sometimes, as Ralph's pointing out, someone's not one with themselves. And sometimes they don't want to find harmony. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for disagreement.
And some
go ahead.
Sometimes Ken, people are in harmony. I think they don't know it. You know what I mean? It's not everybody.
Yeah.
But it's strange how the people that are kind of in harmony and their I do function is all working for them. These are the people that you're able to make agreements with easier. You know what I'm saying? It's probably what happens already.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, right. I mean, so if you're looking at somebody who's, you're checking out a couple of restaurants that you're thinking of partnering with or purchasing, and maybe let's talk about a partnership with them, because that's the easiest thing to consider, that you basically be joining forces and having to get along with them. If you see one that, just is constantly losing money, there's a turnstile of employees coming in and going, and other things in the reality, observable, palpable, whereas the other one works in a way that's profitable, you can tell where the agreements are, and even lots about the people who are running it, the kinds of agreements they make, whether they have a functional use of these functions that we're talking about. Because if they do, well, then then they're adept or better able to find agreements with people. But if you look at this chart this picture that's on there now, we got that, let's call him our guy on the left, who, it's not one, because what he sells is, let's call it I'm not good enoughs. And so he sells I'm not good enoughs, and which is a fantasy to start with. And so where's he going to find harmony with anyone if He's not in harmony with himself in terms of who he is and what he does, and then that the communication's going to reflect what you see here on the screen. It's missing the let's call it the person on the right side, and there you have your failed restaurant partnership right there, observable in the reality. You can tell the agreements they hold or the disagreements they hold just by looking at that restaurant and saying, okay, what's going on here? And then, as I said, reverse engineer, you could, then it becomes more of a math equation. Okay, what's going on here? Let's, it's kind of like Chef Ramsay comes in and he deals with these things. And he comes right in and deals with like B1 right at the bat. It's like, all right, you guys aren't getting along. How come you're, always angry and running out the door? And he's doing the dance. He's doing the dance and adjusting the agreement within the places that you watch him on TV come in. And, he does his best. I think he's pretty good at it, at adjusting the agreement in the particular restaurant. You'll notice every single episode, it's only it's only the food and the decor that comes last. The first 20 minutes of every 30-minute episode is spent in what? It's like spent in like, find the agreement here. Right?
Right.
I'm watching that, still watching that Michael Jordan series or the Chicago Bulls series. I watched the episode where Scottie Pippen, best number 2 player pretty much ever to play the game of basketball, but he was really underpaid. Why was Scottie underpaid? Well, if you watch the episode and see how Scottie grew up, you can see why Scottie would have made a decision to take a long-term contract, 7 years, even though after about a year in his 7-year contract, he was way undervalued. But he took it, 7 years, protect his family and, big family. And yeah, I can see why he took it. But he got pretty frustrated with being locked into that. He was known as one of the best players in basketball when he was playing, yet he was probably the biggest example of underpaid. And so right before one of the last seasons, or maybe it was the last season they played together, he decided on his own, yeah, I'm not playing. That's what he did. Took himself out of that agreement. He wanted to make a point. And so that season, sometime I think around 1997, began unlike any of the previous 6 or 7 seasons, no Pippen. He was part of that agreement. He had a role in that agreement. Pippen had a specific function. The reason why the Bulls worked is because those guys knew what their specific functions were. They were one. They were in harmony. Watch those dudes play. Oh man, you want to see harmony? Everybody playing their role. But then 1996 or 7, whatever the season was, no Pippen. And the Bulls went 0-4. I mean, they lost to like the first 4 games to like some of the worst teams.
So Ken, what could have been done using the playing field for all of the people involved to have that not occur, to have a different outcome?
Well, I'm going to answer a different question. But I think it gets to the same thing. They had to readjust that agreement. That happened Pippen took himself out of it. Michael Jordan commented that it was unfortunate. He understood it. He was empathetic to it, but he recognized that Pippen was not functioning with the team. He had taken himself out of that. And then Jordan did what it looks to me like Jordan always did. He found the agreement. They went down 4 games. He rode those guys to find it. One of the key things that Jordan had to do to readjust the agreement was that he had to have Dennis Rodman step up in a way that Rodman never had before. Rodman was known as a show up sometime kind of guy. Fabulous when he showed up, but sometimes his head really wasn't in it. And I think there was one instance where I forget exactly what happened. Rodman may have fouled out or did something, and Jordan just fucking let him have it. They lost that game. Later that night, Rodman came and paid a visit to Michael Jordan in the way that Rodman did it. He didn't apologize, but the act of being there, his actions said way more about what the communication was than any words he could use. And basically what Rodman said at that point was, yeah, I can do a lot better than that, and you can count on me. And the agreement adjusted. They found a way to play without Pippen.
Mention it too, and from what I can see, as there was nothing as far as Jordan was concerned. Winning was what they did, and he did not want his team to think in any other way. Yeah, they screwed up, but he was persistent in asking them to keep to the agreement to win.
Yep.
There was no letting up.
Yeah. All I've been watching this, all of the elements of what we're talking about here on the playing field, you can find there. And I think, as Ralph's pointed out accurately, sometimes some people do the dance well. And how do you know that they do the dance well? Look at the reality that they live in. And some people don't do the dance that well. It's not a good or bad thing. They just don't. But I don't think any of you now can ever say again for the rest of your life that you aren't a leading actor and actress in the reality that you're staring at, the good, bad, and the ugly. It's, whatever it is. It's just a matter of now you got something. Use it. Don't use it. Try it on. Don't try it on. You are the writer, producer, director, editor, and star of your own reality show. Ain't that the truth? What do you think? So, Ralph, that looking at the reality that somebody lives in, do you see how that is about the surest way to deduce the agreements that they hold, and in turn the programming, whether they're one with themselves, whether they can be in harmony, how they communicate, whether they're empathetic, all of it?
Yeah, like we had examples on the show, George and Jesse,
Yep.
And you saw those guys change, more from maybe just being out of harmony to getting into harmony. And you can hear it in those guys. Those beginning weeks, they were terrible, conversations. They were just, even the way they talked. And then when they straightened out, like a confidence built up in them. I know those guys will never forget wherever Jesse is or wherever he'll go. He'll never forget what happened there, and he'll use it in his life. George, I don't know where he's at. I don't know if he came back, if he's still there. You know what I mean? but they'll use it. They'll use it in doing the float thing or their personal life.
Yeah, for sure.
People that are strong business guys, I've pointed out to, they're good at making agreements, and they're like a natural shaman in some way, and even those people like to be told, oh, why is that? Well, because, you like to think you like to think like this, and they start getting an explanation of things that they're doing, and that becomes interesting for that guy. At the same time, I love the diversion it gives away from the actual, if you're trying to sell me a bag of rocks and you want to sell it for $2, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to try to sell it for $3, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, to try to get as close as to that simple math equation and see, to that agreement and get through all the fog in between. And sometimes this kind of conversation helps navigate through that fog and makes you nail the agreement. At the end, the guy, he can't sell you a bag of rocks less than $2. You know what I mean? And so that's like the game you're playing with people. It's how they're making their agreement. Some people are terrible at it, Ken, that they don't even know how to make an agreement. And I think those guys like spiral.
Yeah.
And I don't make the best agreements too. You know what I mean? I can't say all of mine have been great or whatever. But I'm starting to rethink the shit ones I make or possibly going to make, and really visit where the disagreement is.
Hey, Ralph, it's funny. Some people think agreement is getting people to do what they want, to your point about bad agreements. Right? Like, instead of meeting people where it's beneficial for everybody to maximize that reality creation, some people think of getting agreement by getting people to do what they want them to do. I've seen people in this coalition do that. Ken, you have too.
I'll tell you, Paul, I was talking to Ken about, my own situation in the sense of an agreement. You're right. I've made an agreement sometimes where the agreement was brought upon me and I shook my head. Doesn't mean I was in agreement. It just means I shook my head.
For sure.
So now, it's like rethinking that, hey, what I should have been shaking my head in and the agreement I could be making was different. So now it's like, how I'm going to paint the picture to get to the agreement that is, in between what I'm looking for and what that person's looking for. And I think that a lot of times in the past, I've also done that to staff, do this. And they're also shaking their heads. Yes, sir. But that's not exactly the agreement. You're right. They have to, agree.
Yeah.
For sure. Watch what they do then, and you'll see whether it was just a shake their head up and down, or whether they really meant it.
And then
Well,
I think
Ken,
another.
I was just gonna say, when things get tough, that's when you get to see the depth of the agreement, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna have to do this.
Yeah.
Well, you agreed to the result that we all put on the table, right? So just because you didn't know this was going to be required, now you're backing out? Okay.
Yeah. I thought we would only have sunny days here.
Exactly.
You didn't tell me it was going to rain outside.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me I'd have to put my hands in one of those toilets in that room to clean out the... oh, you did.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Ralph. Go ahead. I just wanted to get that out there.
But I was going to say, another part of the model that I can really appreciate is the moving of someone's assemblage point. That's another powerful, I don't know if that's a tool function, how we labeled it exactly. But I feel like that moves somebody's assemblage point in a conversation somehow, some way, whether it be your business, your partner, your whatever, it is. You move their assemblage point, you have their attention. And they'll hold you in a respect that it builds like a trust, you know what I'm saying? Move somebody's assemblage point, and all of a sudden you're on a higher platform than you were previous because you did this for them. And I don't know, I realized it myself, like when, I'll give you an example. If I don't know you and you're a lawyer and you're kind of, counseling me on law and stuff in my business, all of a sudden you're moving my assemblage point in a way that I couldn't see it before. and I would hold you in higher regard because it's something you knew that I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I turn that example into anything, how to bread chicken, you know what I mean? How to order, how to run a business, how to figure out your profit and loss statement, then all of a sudden people's attention get captured. And I love now describing it as moving an assemblage point, and it's the vocabulary needed when you're doing it. That's another, like I thought, a very interesting part of this model in capturing people's attention in order to get them to make an agreement.
Yeah.
Ralph, you also have to move yours over to where they are so you can get a good picture of what they need so that you know where you want that assemblage point to move to. So it's
Yeah.
for, so it's more than one assemblage point. You're not just moving theirs, you have to move yours as well.
Explain that a little bit more. You know, that's new. I'm thinking one side is,
Yeah,
and
you
there's the other side.
part of it. Yeah, exactly. All right. I taught you need chickens and you want them to be a certain quality at a certain price, right? I have to listen to that. I have to know that that's what you need so that I could move myself over to that so that I can provide it at a price that both of us will agree to, and you'll come back to buy more chickens. But I would have first had to sit down and talk to you and say, okay, what is it do you need? I have to see where your head's at, what you need, how I can meet that need by listening to you and by talking to you all the way through, and to see how, okay, how can we make this a continuing partnership that the price is and quality and everything you need is agreeable that you'll come back to. So it's a relationship then. It's not just a single transaction to buy chicken.
That's you know, I wasn't thinking about that, you know, circling it back around that way. It's interesting.
Yeah, because all of these things are always between more than one person, every part of the agreement. So to get into harmony, I have to know what I can supply. We'll call that B1. I can do this thing for you. So I have to talk to you about all the things that you need to see how I can get that for you in a way that we both can say, wow, that's a good deal. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Again, I'll practice more of that. You know what I'm saying? Knowing the vocabulary, knowing the theory behind it. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I love this model. It just happens in conversation and communication daily, you know, and I'm not an office behind a computer guy. So I'm not sure how that would work if you're just punching, keyboarding, or, you know, communicating that way all day. But I know when it's a face-to-face conversation, the model that you built up over here, a lot of it comes true in a lot of areas. And I don't understand or, you know, have practiced the model long enough to preach or get it all down yet. But just the parts I'm picking up on, I notice are helpful. That's what makes me think like, man, you know, you master the model, it could really, really give you like a tool that somebody else may not have. And that's the advantage.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see where it's sparking and lighting up things in your mind that you're saying, oh, okay, now this is of an interest to me. This is pulling me toward it that I want to see how this works. Cool.
Yeah. And then I'm telling you, when you point it out to other people, it enlightens them. Like, oh, you think like that? And I don't know. You know, if you could kind of really connect with somebody and catch what it is they're doing, then they will open up. And on top of making a business deal, you make a friendship in some way, because if you help them kind of help themselves, get them in harmony, you know, that's priceless in my opinion.
Well, it ends up a whole community.
Where's that coming from?
I think that's Artis Mentalis getting ready for the Wednesday music event.
Little harmony.
So if you think of all the people that you do business with as your community, Ralph,
Hmm.
Creating a community of people it's gonna last. It's like a family. It's gonna last. It's gonna help you and you're gonna help you and each other over a period of a lifetime. And maybe
And I agree with that. Like, I'll give you an example. My French fry guy that I've known forever, he's the distributor. He's Lamb & Wesson, and we've been talking for years, but never at a level like this about, communication agreement. He opened up to me about his spiritual, beliefs or whatever. But at the same time, the agreement to communication, like, the vocabulary used for me to try to explain this model a little bit to him, because he was doing a little bit of this thing, was so interesting that we talked for an hour outside of French fry, and I feel like now, since then, we've become stronger friendship. I've known the guy for 10 years, I would say, but now I feel like there's been a more of a trust kind of developed, and I don't know, I feel like at the conversations after that, I've been able to be like, a little bit more, not want to say direct in like being upset, but like direct just to get to the answer you need, what I'm saying, without so much background salesman pitch. And that is what I can appreciate too. You make that connection with the person, this relationship, then the next time they're not trying to pull, this whole fucking magic trick. Oh, sell you this, sell you that. It's, let me know what I need so I can get onto my business. And that is something this model has brought out for me, I think, in relationships with vendors. There's like a relationship with staff. There's a relationship with vendors you can get out of this. There's a relationship with your personal that you can get out of this. It's all what you want to make.
And they really all begin to overlap in a great a web, like a sphere of agreement. That's great. It enriches your life.
Yeah, that it does. I'll tell you. And it's like, in some way, you start becoming like more of a mentor to people. And I see why, because you're kind of clearing up their heads. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love this. That's why I'm behind it. I think like businesses come into quantum floats to kind of clear their heads, not just in the float. It's clear your head to think, hey, man, how can I make my business better? Well, if your team is working in sync, fuck, man, believe me, the business is going to soar way more. And if you can listen to people and make agreements instead of like complain, blame, I think like that's the very beginning of the book. It's like the blame. That's when I pick up, and like I think Greg got it. Greg missed the beginning of the book. So when he came in and started to blame his coworker, he fell into the trap because he missed that beginning part. But I guarantee he won't blame the way he did, because now he's starting to understand the model a little bit. So for him to not do that, all of a sudden you start really getting the answer to the solution instead of just fucking pointing a finger.
Yeah, sometimes we say fix the problem, not the blame.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna keep that in my arsenal.
There you go. Please don't mind. It's a good one. Yeah. Well, that's what we're. Go ahead. You got. Sounds like you're getting ready to say something else.
Me, no, I was just rattling around. I was gonna actually say is like, where do you take this whole Ken? You as being Dr. Ken there, where do you take this whole last 32 days and kind of, you know what I'm saying? What's your outtake on it?
Well, you have an introduction now to a model. And as you see, and as Pam referenced the other night, it's a functional, workable model. But like being a lawyer or being Michael Jordan or being a restaurateur or being anything, or a senior partner at a law firm, you now have a way to understand how reality creation is done. People that come into my float center, this is like a, reality creation center. Come on into Quantum Floats. You want to see how reality is created, especially yours. Float a little bit. Start accessing those parts of your awareness that are down there in float space, what we're calling delta. Now learn a model to do you better. You like what's going on? Take a look around at the reality that you're in. For most people, there are places, if not big old gaping holes, where they'd like to do better. Okay. Now you got a way to be deliberate about the reality that you create in a way that you weren't before. You're taking back over control of the biocomputer. It's a good way to think about it, right? Because remember we talked earlier about programs. We get thrown around by our programs. Maybe not so much anymore. You don't have to.
I tell you, I always love seeing the thing as like a business thing. First of all, again, you're right. It works in all aspects of life, but I feel like for somebody to unravel
Uh-oh.
their personal, that's the hardest. Explaining it through their business, you know what I'm saying? Kind of wrapping it around and making them feel like it's not really their personal. So in a business fashion, that's where I think you can get deeper with people to see where they're at. That's why I love, like, hey, you want to solve your business problems? Quantum floats, so the float should have, like, the CEO, bring the top 3 people and start with a 3-man float and conference. Because like my question to you is, where do you take all this? Okay, you did the last 32 days. Now, if there's a businessman on the other end listening, and what does he do with the next 32 days? Yes, he can come and float and do what you're saying for sure. But how does one now take his company, come to you, you know what I mean? Have a little quasi, like a therapy session that could be like once a quarter. Because that's what I think companies need.
Yep. Well, since you asked, do your rewrite. You'll see, you'll then have experience rewriting a self-meta program at the bottom of that pyramid. Well, actually, you'll use the whole part of it. You will have sharpened up your, this is what I want a business person to understand. That, as you've pointed out, programming has a very central but not exclusive role in this model, because being one with ourselves has a central, if not exclusive, role in this model. Which is to say, remember that B1 sits within the quadrant of specific function. What's it that Ken Kaplan does? What did Scottie Pippen do? What did Dennis Rodman, the rebounding machine, do? What was his specific function? He had to deal with programming.
Yeah.
So,
and the rewrite is like, I get that that's a process.
yeah.
What is out there to offer the company? Again, I know there's no quick fix, but there could be like a quick conference that just kind of gets people's heads going on. Like,
think about even bringing a team together and having them float. Maybe it's, kind of the leadership team, having them float, and then running them through like a programming series, just running them through just so they can start with B1.
Well,
that programming series, could be run online. It could be run as a fun trip down to Mexico. It could be run any number of ways. I can come into the company and set it up. We can do it via video.
another thing would be the MBO, I think, Ken, would be a good way to learn programming, but applying it to business.
Yeah. So we haven't spent a lot of time on this thing called MBO.
Yeah, explain the acronym again. Remember, you told me. I forgot.
So it's an acronym. It stands for Management by Objective. It's a term that I think was first coined by a guy named Peter Drucker, who is sometimes regarded as the father of modern management. this guy knew shit about how companies work that, that a lot of people hadn't figured out. And what Drucker understood was that companies operate on agreements, on programs, on working together. He didn't use that language, but everything Drucker talked about was pointed or geared toward aligning a company so that everybody's pulling in the same direction. And so he broke that down into a series of steps. You can call it a business plan, but Drucker called it an MBO. And since, well, most of last century and this century, that term has, taken on a meaning in business for a business plan or a certain kind of business plan, an MBO. Every business, well, I'll say it this way, and then I'll tell you how Paul says it. Hope he may come on and say it, because I used to say every business ought to have an MBO. Paul might say every business already has an MBO. Right? Every business is already following some plan, and let's say it's functional, but it's, just like we don't teach people how to put you already got programs.
Well, I just want to mention, because Ralph was talking about like the personal thing. I mean, that's where it starts from, because it's based on your programming and what you bring to your business.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get it. And listen, Ken kind of pulled me into this, and because I'm close to Ken, I felt no problems opening up to him. But if Ken was a stranger, I would have a block. And I think that's not just me. That's got to be a lot of the world. Now, if it was in a business setting and it was like in a roundabout way, it comes up in a business as a block. I don't know. My feeling is people will let down their guard thinking like, oh, this is business, not personal. But at the end of the day, when they realize that the same shit you're doing at work is the same shit you're doing in your life, then the light bulb will go off.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, and women might be different. I don't know, but a guy.
No, wait.
Wait,
Whoa, all of you guys, take a powder here, please.
Yeah.
Ralph, let's go back to what Paul was talking about. Everybody's got an MBO. Everybody's got programming already. That's already true. You either are run by it or you run it. And the thing is that if you could just explain this to people and they'd sit down and use it and not be offended because you're pointing out where they're making a mistake, I'm pretty sure that we could all live in peace and harmony, and we could all become hippies and live on tropical islands someplace. But the reality is that people argue and fight and pitch a bitch about learning this stuff. At least that's been my experience. And you can tell them this business, and you say, you get right in and you can say, look, this is a business concept. And I want you to pay attention to this from business, please. Not from personal, just from business. This is this thing that you do here with your people. I don't do that. Yes, you do. They're all, ask them. I have gone through all of those things with people, and I will guarantee you that they will pitch a bitch and fall in it. I mean, fall slap dab into it. Ken's been along on a couple of those jaunts, and it's like it's like, well, if you didn't want to know, why'd you ask?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ken.
No, that's I from the economics, just one example of everyone will fit into what I'm about to say to a certain extent or not. But in this particular case that I referred to earlier, I've been working with this particular client for, maybe 6 years to sell his business. And in the 6 years, maybe there's been 10 quarters, or what do you call the people that try to woo you to sell your business? Prospective buyers, every single one of which met nearly the same fate of withering at the vine. And the fate of every deal was driven precisely, exactly by the concepts that we're talking about. Why? Because it has to. This is how agreements work, or this is how they don't work. And so the client complained to me, or kidded. I mean, there was a little kidding, but he was trying to make a point that I made, I don't know, $100,000 over 5 years on these deals. It's real money, right? Maybe it was 150. I haven't even tallied it. Maybe it was 200. 5 years trying to sell a business 6 times. And you bet, when he brought that up to me, that's not the first opportunity that I've had to make this point. But if he wasn't such a hard ass, or so certain that people are trying to screw him, we could have had a deal earlier. But the thing is, what John's talking about, he strikes me as very strongly in the camp of, I don't want to hear that. Okay. What? Okay, great. Here's your July bill. Now, what am I gonna do? But some people like you or others resonate. For them, spending a couple of $100,000 unnecessarily is a pretty darn good motivation that maybe they ought to take a look at how that reality transpired and what their leading actor or actress role has been in doing that. As you said, Ralph, blame's a big part of it. Because if you don't get past that part, then you do what this client did and said, nah, not me. People are always trying to take advantage of it. Okay, here's your July bill, Mr. Client. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with any of you guys. Why? This is, I don't, as I said in the beginning, it's a model. Pick it up, use it, try it on, have fun. Or don't. There ain't nothing you have to believe here. It's a model of what you already do. You're already doing this dance. You may be stepping on toes, but you're already doing the dance. What you got, Pac Jones? Your mic's open. Did you have something to add?
Well, I just, personal experience. Right now, I'm using this model to come to an agreement with my client and a planning board up in Connecticut, as well as an architecture review board up in Connecticut. So the model's getting about, 3 or 4 people deep. Well, actually, it's probably about somewhere between 15 and 20 people if you count everybody on all the boards. It's been very helpful to understand what I'm doing, what my role is now in creating that agreement, and or helping create that agreement, and sliding my point of view around, my assemblage point, and understanding, what I'm doing, and give me a little bit more instruction on how to do it in order to hopefully get my client and these boards that I'm dealing with up in Connecticut to move their assemblage point so that we can all come to an agreement and get a building built.
Yeah. I have a question, Pat, because Ralph had asked me what I want to do or what Quantum's going to do. Question for you. How impactful, and just really straight up, because you spent a week down at Artis Mentalis. I invited you down to attend a workshop. So you got to hang out for a week and learn some stuff. How much of that was kind of like, bam, wow, I'm paying attention to a lot of new things now?
it was extremely eye-opening. Every time we do one of these, every time I come and float, every time we talk, this get together, the patio chats, everything, it's always eye-opening.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like everyone, I fight it. You go and you go down to Mexico or I went down to Mexico and it was extremely eye-opening. It was great. I'm in the middle of my rewrite, but I get to a point where I think I'm fighting it. Just a personal, move that assemblage point or but it's I keep coming back for more because it's right. It's things just aren't working for me, and every time I do it, do one of these things just start working a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the programming, I pick out those little pieces and I examine them and I change it because you see things that just don't work and you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Why frustrate yourself? It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
We hired a lawyer that a couple of years ago. He didn't last very long, but he came out of law school. It's like God's gift to the law field, he thought. And, he met what everybody else in that position meets, that you're going to get to be senior partner. That's not a role that you just get awarded. That comes from experiences. That comes from what you've been working through. You climb up the experiential ladder. This skill set that we're talking to you folks about is, it's like that. This kid lasted about 3 months because he didn't want to pay those kind of dues. He thought he should be a partner after a year. It doesn't work like that. The skills that Pat's working on now, that he's explaining, that he's building because he was down in Mexico and he's doing his rewriter, just part of a maturity process. It's good.
Great.
Yeah, because if you can learn it in a day, I'd be out of business. Yeah. What else you guys got? We're gonna come back tomorrow night. We'll talk some more about agreement. Friday? What are you doing Friday? Who's on? It was like, is Friday like
Were you going to do question and answer on Friday, or?
Yeah, we could. Yeah. What do we call that? I don't want to, ask anything kind of thing.
Open forum,
Open forum.
all topics, all days.
Yeah. So tomorrow is kind of like a conclusion, and Friday is kind of like a ask anything review kind of day.
Ken, didn't you say there was something else coming?
Yep. So here's what I'm working on. What we're working on is, so that we've been through this thing twice now. We've been through this 35-day Office of Shaman series. And pre-COVID, those that come into the Float Center here have seen our signs and things about our intro to the art of rewriting. It's an intro class. It's like a preview to rewrite. We're going to take that and put that in a format just like this one. So we'll Summit series will continue. We'll take a short break, maybe a week or so, and then we'll invite all you folks to come and participate in a Summit series version of our Introduction to the Art of Rewriting workshop. Okay?
Oh.
And it's the first
Cool.
time because we're going to do it in this format instead of, and we've got an outline of that Vanessa did that she sent to me this morning. I haven't reviewed it yet, but it's coming.
And Ken, this is normally a 2 or 3 day event, right? Like kind of linked up to each other.
Yeah. We've offered it either as a 2-day weekend, 6 hours both days, which means 12 hours total, or we've offered it sometimes as an evening, 3 4-hour nights, 3 times 4 again, 12 hours. So we're going to make it like a 10-night thing, an hour, give or take a night. We'll get through it. You guys will,
Cool.
yeah, it's good. Really, really, really cool. What can I say? Those
Well, it's going to give everyone a chance to actually do the things we're talking about with training wheels and
Yep.
experienced people watching them go through it. So yeah, that's awesome idea. Good idea.
more to come. We'll let you know. Okay, well, you know what? Don't forget the Slack channel. I see some activity there. I'm up to talk to all of you on Slack. If you got a question. Some of you have even found out that you can call me. Yep, you can do that. So I welcome that. But for now, how about we just come back tomorrow night? We'll pick up with part 2 of agreement.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
See you. Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.